Picture this. It's 1905, and the city of London is obsessed with the Stratton brothers murder trial. Detective Inspector Charles Collins introduces a brand new technology, the fingerprint. Nobody believes him. He explains the predictive analytics, still nothing. He eventually fingerprints the entire jury to prove the accuracy, and yet it still feels like magic. Similarly, when AI first had a cultural moment, it felt like magic. Even now, companies still use the magic sparkles to represent AI. The problem is, when we treat it as magical, we both overestimate and underestimate a technology's impact on our lives. I'm Dr. John Spencer. I'm a former middle school teacher and current college professor who explores the intersection of deeper learning and educational technology. We'll be exploring the hard questions that the dawn of generative AI stirs up for us. The truth is, collectively, we aren't always the best at predicting the effects of new technology. It was hard to see how the printing press would contribute to the rise of the nation state, or how the telegraph would impact our attention spans, or how social media would lead to filter bubbles and echo chambers. So as we ask the harder questions about AI, the unsettling truth is we don't know how it will change humanity. We have experts making bold predictions about the future, but many of these will seem as ridiculous as the mid-century sketches of flying cars. We have science fiction stories offering warnings, but often these authors miss out on some of the unintended consequences that emerge from technology and the social, political, and economic systems. From a Christian perspective, we have an advantage. We recognize the power of humility and the danger of hubris. So as we think about the harder questions around AI, it helps to start from a place of humble curiosity. Here's where I think the Gartner Hype Cycle is a helpful tool. It describes how new technologies move from excitement and inflated expectations to disappointment and skepticism before eventually finding practical, sustainable uses. But I've noticed a similar cycle occurs, where we go from early awareness to moral panic and into a place of complacency. And I'd argue that the most dangerous place for us ethically is when technology becomes so pervasive that it's invisible. That's why it's important that we begin the habit of asking hard questions in the current phase, not out of moral panic, but out of a goal of seeking wisdom. We're going to focus questions around power, labor, creativity, and truth. On a simplistic level, AI is a prediction machine. But on a deeper level, it is a powerful tool that mimics human cognition. It's no surprise that science fiction writers have posed profound questions about the power of AI agents in changing our world. But what once seemed like a far-off fantasy is slowly becoming our reality. We are not only living in a generative age, we are at the dawn of agentic AI, where these prediction machines are making significant decisions with a sense of agency despite lacking consciousness. This raises big questions about power in AI. Who gets to decide how AI agents make decisions that affect millions, if not billions, of people? And what does that mean for the inherent bias of the original data? What happens when we begin outsourcing not just the tasks, but the judgment itself to the machines? How do we maintain human agency in a world increasingly shaped by algorithmic choices? What values are embedded into these systems? And what values have we left out? If AI can mimic human cognition, what uniquely human capacities become even more important? I'm not even going to begin to try to answer any of these questions, but I do think it helps to think about some of the strengths and weaknesses of AI agents. AI can process enormous amounts of information and generate responses in seconds. It can identify patterns, summarize complex ideas, and provide detailed analysis with a level of speed that we as humans simply cannot match. A chatbot doesn't get tired, distracted, or emotionally reactive. It's consistent, it's pleasant, it doesn't fall victim to human error. At the same time, it remains artificial. It can act pro-social, but it cannot empathize. It can stay pleasant, but it cannot feel. AI struggles with context. It cannot read the room in the way that a person can. It is inherently predictable and fails to think as divergently as humans do. It also contains the same biases as its data sources, which means, from a power perspective, AI can reinforce inequities, including racism and sexism. Case in point, if you ask for AI to generate an image of a left-handed painter, you would have gotten this back in 2023. Years later, we have this, much more accurate and yet still containing the same bias toward right-handed people. So as we think about the power of AI, we need to recognize that it can be an amazing tool at liberating us from tasks where we regularly struggle. But it has its limitations. And if we outsource too many tasks to AI, these weaknesses have a significant impact on our society. That's why we need to think intentionally about AI and labor. I was recently at an AI convention where a keynote speaker made the comment, if AI can do it, we are wasting our time. AI agents are getting better, faster, and cheaper than us. Figure out what we do better. While I agree with this sentiment, there are some flaws in the argument. First, if we depend on AI to do all of the things that it does better, we run the risk of cognitive atrophy. In other words, we let the AI do all of the thinking for us. We also run the danger in using AI to do mundane tasks and humans to do all of the hard ones. Now that might seem like a good thing. Let the humans do the challenging work. But we actually need a mix of easier and challenging tasks. Currently, call centers are facing this very real challenge right now. AI agents handle the easy complaints, and humans deal with super angry customers who have sticky problems that require critical thinking, empathy, and patience. The result? The humans are quitting. But it's more than just that. During the pandemic, I did a show and tell activity where I asked my students to share a healthy way that they were coping with social isolation. They brought in items for baking, crocheting, painting, writing, gardening, and pottery. All of these items can be automated in a way that is faster and cheaper. So why do those things? Because labor is about more than just efficient economic output. Our labor is a part of how God has designed us to be. It's what allows us to be human. And in fact, when we crochet a blanket or write a story from scratch or make a home-cooked meal, that slower, imperfect, creative aspect is what makes our labor stand out. So what does it mean to do authentic work in an age of AI? What should we automate and what should we continue to do on our own? Ethan Mollick describes two ways humans can work with AI, the Centaur model and the cyborg model. In the Centaur model, humans and AI split up the tasks, with AI handling narrow jobs like sorting recycling, while humans make the larger decisions. But most creative work functions better with a cyborg model, where humans and AI work in this ongoing back and forth process that keeps people actively thinking and making meaning. So let's look at this notion of AI as a co-creator. When we think about using AI as a co-creator, we will sometimes begin with the human element first, and then use AI as an editing tool or as a method for getting meaningful feedback. But we might also start with something AI generated and then modify it to make it our own. AI essentially defaults towards something more cliche and derivative. It creates vanilla. But then we can modify it with things like contextual knowledge, empathy, and our own voice and personality to make it our own. We should also recognize that there's a third way that will emerge over time. People will begin to use AI as a creative tool by essentially hacking it creatively to make something new. Consider the drum machine. Artists used a tool that was meant to replace live drummers and stretched the limit of what it could do in order to create entirely new genres of music like EDM. We can't predict how creativity will change with AI, but we do know that humans will take it in directions that we cannot fathom right now. This feels a bit theoretical right now. So let's consider how AI will change the creative process in something like writing. A co-creation model might mean that you start out by engaging in a question and answer with a chatbot. From there, you engage in your own research. You ask clarifying questions to AI. You might ask for a list of resources to check out. Eventually, you create your own outline. You then ask the chatbot to create an outline, and you compare the two. As you write, you mostly write from scratch, but you might also ask the AI agent to copy your style, and then you heavily edit what it writes. Afterwards, you ask the chatbot to play the role of an avatar for multiple readers, and you get feedback. Note how this is a cyborg approach that doesn't lead to cognitive atrophy. Or in a STEM context, it might mean using AI to run complex simulations to mimic the so-called wicked problems that engineers face on a daily basis. For the last 2 decades, AI has been changing what we believe to be true. We live in a world where algorithms shape worldviews based on relevance. Now with generative AI, we are seeing a proliferation of AI-generated images, videos, and articles that blur the line between real and fake. I personally hate that I can't trust animal videos anymore. And this has huge implications for deep fakes in politics and in catfishing scams. In many ways, we are being forced to wrestle with a deeper question. What is truth in the age of AI? In the age of AI, information literacy has to become something deeper than simply fact-checking. Knowing what is true begins with curiosity rather than analysis. In a culture of instant information, we have to develop the habit of slowing down, asking questions, noticing context, and exploring where information comes from. Criticism still matters, but if we don't start with curiosity, we run the risk of confirmation bias. But this also means that we have the responsibility to provide chatbots with the necessary contextual information and nuance that leads to truth. One of my favorite strategies here is to use a raft. This is a modified version of something from Project Chris, and raft stands for role. Who am I and who do I want the chatbot to be? Audience, who is the intended audience for this? What should the chatbot know about them? Format, do I want this shorter or longer? Visual or in text? In a graph or in a spreadsheet? Temperature, do I want it lower and thus more factually accurate, or higher and more creative? As Christians, we are called to approach technology with both wisdom and humility. AI will continue to reshape our notions of power, labor, creativity, and truth in ways that we cannot fully predict. But rather than responding with fear or blind optimism, we can choose thoughtful curiosity. The goal is not simply to ask what AI can do, but what it should do and what it means for us to remain deeply human in an age of intelligent machines.